Hi, my name is Dennis Schubert, um, and
I'm Sharon Schubert.
we are happy to have this chance to share about our lives together. We both met at Florida State University at the School of Music. We were both music majors. Neither one of us really ever taught much music, but that was our degree path, and from that we went into other things. Um, we we met at FSU and we became Christians at FSU at Call Street Church of Christ, and where we worshipped. And then after graduation, we both taught in Quincy, Florida, for a short time, and then we had a chance to move to. I had a chance to move to Fort Lauderdale and follow a new ministry that was starting down there. So I moved to Fort Lauderdale, so we dated long distance for about a year, and then I came back up and asked her to marry me. It's kind of a funny story. A friend of mine, I took the drive to come up and ask her to marry me, they asked, "What if she says no?" And so I had the 10-hour drive from Fort Lauderdale to Tallahassee, thinking she's going to say no. But I got all the way up here, and it wasn't a very romantic gesture. We got in the car after a Friday night devotional at the church, and I said, "You want to get married?" And she said yes, and so we.
And I've wanted the romantic proposal ever since.
But we didn't have much. It wasn't real structured, but luckily she said yes, and I was relieved, and so it was a lot of fun. But then we moved to Fort Lauderdale, and we lived down there for a long time, about 5 years.
I'd have to figure it out.
Yeah, we figured out. But while we were down there, I was not the best of drivers, and in 1982, I was driving to a friend's house, and I made a left turn with traffic coming at me, and ended up in the hospital. Was in a coma for 2 weeks. I've had 5 brain surgeries during that time, and it was a very traumatic time because our lives completely changed after that. I was on Social Security disability for a long time, and trying to recover. I had to learn to do everything over again from scratch, and it was very stressful and very hard. We went to a support group in Fort Lauderdale after the accident, and they said, "Don't be surprised if you lose all your friends," and we did. All of our friends couldn't accept the changes that occurred to me. They expected me to be the old Dennis, but the new Dennis was just as viable, but I just couldn't do the things I could do before. It took many years to get over the recovery of that from that, and Sharon was a great support the whole time. But we lost all of our friends because they couldn't understand the differences and the changes, because after the last surgery everything looked normal, but inside it was far from the same. It was a very difficult situation. So, but Sharon was a great support during all that time. Like I said, we lost all our friends. It was a very stressful time, having to learn everything all over again. After 2 weeks in the 5 brain surgeries and 2 weeks in a coma, it was very difficult.
You want me to? Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess I'll start a little bit further back and then piggyback on some of the things you said. When I came to FSU, my family I had grown up Southern Baptist, but when my mother remarried, my stepfather was Lutheran, and ironically, we wound up going to the Lutheran church, and he stopped. So we were going to his church, but he wasn't going anymore. But we kind of kept our Southern Baptist doctrines, I guess you would say, beliefs, which are different really from the Lutheran church. But my senior year in high school, I read the Bible like front to back, all of it. And when I came up here to FSU, we didn't really have a church because of that. We didn't go to a Baptist congregation. We went to a Lutheran congregation, but didn't really have those beliefs. So we really didn't have like what you would call a church home. Mm-hmm. So when I came up to FSU, I was looking for a church, and I was invited to the congregation here, the Church of Christ, Dennis was saying, by a friend in my dorm, and right away felt like they're doing a lot of things that I had read, about in the Bible. So especially the relationships, I felt. So that was good. I got kind of, when I started having a Bible study with my friend, and got kind of caught up on the baptism part of it, because Southern Baptists believe it's a symbol for what you've already done. Mm-hmm. But I got caught up on that for a while, but then eventually came to just tell myself, this is what the Bible says, mm-hmm. that it's for forgiveness and the forgiveness of your sins, and receive the Holy Spirit. So then I was baptized. So we had our life here in college, and we graduated and got married. And then he referred to his accident. At first, everyone was so supportive. I can't even say enough about how supportive they were at first. But it did eventually get to a point where, like he said, they expected him to be back to normal. And he had done so much. He was so involved with the music. He had started a music group here in Tallahassee, 2 groups actually, and taken them on tour and made records. And down in South Florida, he was very involved with the music there as well. So it got to a point where the expectation was for him to be back doing all of this, and it was I remember going to church, and just so much of it was conversation after conversation about, why isn't Dennis doing this? Why isn't Dennis doing that? And having to explain over and over, he's not ever going to be that same person, but that's okay. He still has so much to give, and you just have to get to know him on a different level, or a different who he is now, mm-hmm. and like he referred to, the support group said, and it was so true, that that's hard for people to do. They have an idea of who they relate to someone in a certain way, and it's very difficult. So sometimes the people that are closest to you are the people that it's hardest for, because they're not relating the same way anymore, and they can't get used to that. So it eventually came to a head, and we felt like we were going to need to switch congregations, and we did. And I just feel like God gave us this congregation, a very small congregation of such friendly people.
Yeah, it was a really good situation. We came out of basically the movement into was called an anti-church, where they don't believe in a lot of things and we didn't really agree with their philosophies on a lot of things, but they were very, very supportive and very, very helpful to us as we were going through all these surgeries.
Yeah. I remember the minister's wife one day said, "What is it that what is your greatest need?" And I said, "Friends." And they just for her to ask that question, it was really a different place from, at that time, really, I think the culture with church, with the congregations we had been converted in and been a part of, was challenge, and to challenge other people. But I think what we learned from that experience was maybe it's not all about challenging other people. It's about loving other people and meeting their needs. And within that framework, then you have a lot of opportunities to help each other grow. And that's where the challenge comes in. But if you're not starting from a place of really trying to understand the other person, understand what their situation really is, not just starting from a place of this is what you should be, or everybody should be this, or everybody should be that. So we really learned a lot about, I think, about what Christianity is all about. And we're so thankful for Crossway. We feel like Crossway is really trying to do it right. And they are doing it right in so many ways. And so that's...
And then we moved from, we were in Hollywood then, we moved to Tampa because that's where Sharon's mother was, and both of our mothers were sick with breast cancer. My mother soon died after that, and then her mother lived a good long time while we were living in Tampa. Then we had the 4 children. We had 2 of them in Fort Lauderdale right before we moved, and then we had 2 more in Tampa. And it was a real blessing to be able to pour our lives into our children, and it was kind of funny because I was on Social Security disability and we were living on basically peanuts, and one day I thought, I was taking care of the kids while she was out working. She taught school and stuff like that, and I thought, if I can do this, I can work. So my escape from childcare was going back to work, and in Tampa we found the optician program, which I did a self-test, and opticianry came up, opticianry is like, there's 3 O's: opticianry, optometry, and ophthalmology. And opticianry is the basic pharmacist for eyeglasses and contacts. And there happened to be in our godsend, there was a program. There's 2 programs in the state of Florida for opticianry at Hillsborough Community College and Miami-Dade. And so we were right there. It was in real close proximity to where we lived in Tampa. And so I went back to school for 2 years and got a degree in opticianry and became an optician, so then I went back to work. And
he was very, very motivated to go back to work and support
couldn't
his
handle
family.
the childcare.
Well, even before that, he went through a time of like depression and all, but he came out of that, and he searched for. He tried to go back to work in the job he had, and
Right.
it just proved to be
Very
too
stressful.
And so, but then he really consciously searched for what he could do, that would support his family. And even with some of the, I think it was Easter Seal, some of the organizations he was going to for help, telling him, oh, just stay on disability the rest of your life, and he was, no, I'm not going to do that. So he really was a person of a lot of initiative to get back into the workforce, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
But we had the 4 kids, 4 and 5 years, so it was and then like you said, my mother was ill. It was a stressful time and a busy time, but it was. Shoot, I didn't know I was going to spend this whole time in teary eyed. I did.
She
I really
loved
did.
being a mother. She was born to be a mother.
Well, it was just, to me, even the terrible twos, it's like you're doing the most important job in the world because you're training a person, It's just, they were such a joy. So, really loved that.
Do you mind if I interject with a question?
Sure.
So I'm hearing all of this for the first time, and I have so many questions, but I'll try to stay on topic. I'm gonna cry over here.
What
watching you cry.
is the topic?
Yeah. Well, I mean, wow. I should have had y'all tell me some of this before. But hearing you talk about this, how old were you when you had your accident?
22.
22. My goodness. Okay.
Just
so,
out of college.
Just out of college.
We've been married a year and a half about.
Wow. Okay. So, hearing all of this, and then it sounds like you had this great group of friends, and then you lose your friends. I'm like, oh, well, y'all are a perfect analogy for the Jordan River, which we've been talking about, and God parting it, because I have this image of y'all standing at the edge of the Jordan River without any friends, by yourself, going, okay, so what do we do now? Are we supposed
we still
to
had
go?
God.
Yeah.
We still had God, and we both had a close relationship with God. We both, God never let us. Our friends didn't understand, and it's understandable because it was really the CAT scan is what saved my life.
Really?
Before the CAT scan, they would have known where the injury was and everything like that.
The blood clot.
The blood clot was. So if it had been 10 years earlier, I probably wouldn't have survived it. So it's kind of incredible to think about that God just at the right time.
And that there wasn't a lot of knowledge on people's part about it.
Well, that's what I want to ask y'all is, so during that time specifically, what do you think it was, if we use the analogy of, okay, God parted the Jordan and you were able to cross over, what was it that he gave y'all? I mean, that's incredible faith at 22, and how old were you?
21.
21. But what did he provide you with?
That's right, though, Dennis. You were 24 when we got married, and I was 23.
Okay.
It was in 1980.
Still, though. Early
25,
20s.
24, yeah.
Yeah. So what was it that how would you look back and you go, was it the fact that he gave you faith when you thought that you shouldn't have faith? Because I know a lot of people, if that happens, sometimes our tendency is to say, well, where is God in all of this? How did you hold on to your faith through all of that? And how did he provide?
I think I didn't blame God. I think I was a terrible driver. And I think I took responsibility for the accident because it was a stupid move. And I just didn't. I made a left turn with traffic coming at me. And I was probably thinking about other things. And so I take responsibility for what happened with the accident. It's not something that God did to me. It's something I did to myself.
Did you have to deal with any, I know some people, did you have to deal with any guilt, or was it?
Oh yeah, there was definitely guilt and bad feelings and depression. I was very depressed at that time. Again, Sharon was a great support. She really helped me through it all.
What do you think eventually pulled you out of that?
Busyness. I think after that we had the 4 kids and we had our relationship, and Sharon was working, I was trying to do what I could do, and I think just I was so busy I couldn't think about being depressed. And so sometimes the busyness is a blessing,
Yeah.
There was also, I remember an incident where he said he wasn't going to go to church anymore, and I know that I remember like the minister of the church saying, well, you can still come to, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And I said to him, what we do together. And if you're not going to go, I'm not going to go either. And he couldn't, he wasn't going to do that.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to pull me away too, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, and I didn't, it wasn't a situation where I didn't really feel he was serious about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really a situation where I was saying, well, we're just not going to go anymore. It was a situation where he was depressed. He was reacting emotionally.
Mm-hmm. But I knew he wasn't going to drag me down too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And so what we do together, and you're going to have to step up. And he did.
And I guess we left that congregation at that time, and we went to started the anti-church, and the people were very supportive, and so I guess God worked it out. You know, we would never thought about going to an anti-church because we don't really believe those feelings, but they wrapped their arms around us and helped us, and our friends is, you know, it's understandable because, like I said, the CAT scan was new. People wouldn't have survived the accident that I had 5 years, 10 years before that. So it was all a new thing for everybody. Head injury, you know, head injury recovery was a very new thing because most people didn't survive before that. And I came close to dying. 2 weeks in a coma is crazy.
Not ideal. Not ideal.
Yeah, I had one of the doctors going up in the elevator. He had so many doctors. This is the lung doctor, and I said, "What do you think?" This was early. This is like the first or second day. And I said, "What do you think is going to be the outcome, the prognosis?" And he said, "Well, I think he's going to survive, but I think he'll be a vegetable." And he just said that to me, and just like that, telling me this
Oh,
guy
I'm
is,
so glad the camera
the
can't see
chance
my
of rain
face.
today is 80%. You know, it's like it was so
Devastating.
clinical. I don't know, so. And still today, I want to just pull him aside and say, "Look at this
There's a
carrot
vegetable.
right here." You know, like.
You were a very lively vegetable, sir. Oh my gosh.
I want to be broccoli.
No one likes broccoli. What's a vegetable everyone likes? Everybody likes Dennis. Oh, that's funny. That's funny looking back. I'm sure at the time it wasn't, but now it is because it's like, well, yeah, we proved you wrong.
Well, that was what I felt. It was like when he said that, I was like, okay, I'm disregarding you.
Yeah. Okay, you can get off at this
Right.
stop. I'm going to keep going on the
Right, I'm going to that floor. You just
Oh,
go your way.
My goodness. Okay, so if there was somebody younger in the church that, you know, has kind of been bebopping along through life and everything is going great, because I don't know if I told y'all, you know, when I started with this idea of what I wanted to do, a lot of it was because I was that young person who just bebopped through life and everything was good, and I was baptized young and I loved Jesus. And then stuff like this happens that is totally unexpected, that brings you to a fork in the road or a crossing of the Jordan River, where you have to start making decisions on, you know, okay, how strong is my faith? You know, you are being tested. You did not have this in your plan A, B, or C. And a young person would like to know, how do you handle that when it comes? Because if it comes in my life, I want to be ready for the unexpected. I want to be strong enough to be able to have the faith to say, yeah, God's going to dry up this river and we're going to cross over. What would you tell somebody who is in a younger position who hasn't experienced God's faithfulness?
I don't think you can really prepare for something like this. You never know what's going to happen. But I guess people that watch this video, to know that yes, anything can happen to you, but you can still keep your faith. I mean, I don't think we lost our faith in a lot of people, but we never lost our faith in God. And I feel like God carried us through it all. Not in the way we expected. I mean, like she said, when it first happened, it was a Friday night, and there were Friday night devotionals all over the state. And people were praying for me all over the state. It was very touching. It was very touching to think back on that we had people all over the state that were praying and were concerned about what was going on, and that just means so much to us now, thinking back on it.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a real juxtaposition of people letting you down and also people being so there for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really were there for us for a long time, and then, like I said, I looked normal, everything looked fine, but inside there was that brain injury, and it took probably 15 or 20 years to really get past the struggle from the brain injury.
Yeah.
And so I guess I would encourage people to be patient and try and be understanding and not assume things about what's going on with people.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I would probably say is before things like that happen, but also when they're happening, and sometimes God's still there, but you may not feel it as much as you feel it when everything's going great.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in some ways maybe you feel it more, but for me, sometimes it's hard. And what I have found in my life is read your Bible and pray every day, and do it when things are going well and do it when things are not, because you read the Bible and you're convicted of yourself, your own sin, what needs to change, and you see how you need to be or be different to be close to God, and then you pray and you pour yourself out to God. And over time, you see the answers to those prayers. And you may not see it, when you're going through something, but you look back and you know, or things start happening and you remember what you prayed for, and you know that He's working.
Yeah.
So I just think that's what, for any of us, really, those are the things that mainly, for me at least, that's what builds my faith.
Yeah, God has been faithful through all kinds of struggles,
Right.
all kinds of things that have happened in our life. But God has been faithful.
It sounds like it. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
I've got one more that, to me, I just can't get over the fact that y'all had this incredible faith when you were so young. Do you think, can you look back and think on anything that you would say, man, I feel like we did this, not maybe did this right, but somehow y'all had already established a pretty good faith in God to be able to go through what you went through and say, nope, our choice is to believe that God will get us through this. Do you think there was anything before the accident that really helped shape that stronghold of faith for y'all?
Probably being so involved in the strong campus ministry. We had near the end of our campus ministry, we had 100 college students in one place, and it was wonderful because everybody, all the skills of 100 people and all the abilities of 100 people. I was very involved, Sharon was very involved, but I led the music for the worship services, and also, like she said, we had a singing group that toured, and we had a small group that with instrumental music and without a cappella music. And so we were very busy with church activities and being involved, and I don't know, and all of our friends were involved in that also, I guess. And it just helped us. We saw God working in so many ways. And after the accident, we saw God working because, like I said, the CAT scan had just been developed. Otherwise, I would have died. No, there's no question about it without the CAT scan. And being in the coma for 2 weeks, and that allowed my body to recover and heal. And then all the surgeries after that. It was a very, very difficult time, but God saw us through all of it. And looking back, we have been so incredibly blessed with all this time.
I would have to say is probably my mother. She was so good at teaching us values from as early as I can remember. And part of that was going to church and, reading the Bible. And she went through a lot herself. My stepfather was an alcoholic. She only knew him for 2 months before she married him, which was a vast mistake. Would not recommend that to anybody younger.
Noted.
But even when she remarried, their family, it was honestly like two totally different families living, coexisting in the same house, because I have 2 stepbrothers, that the whole value system was completely different from what she had taught us. But she continued to be who she was, and to enable us to continue to develop that way, with those values.
Yeah.
And then of course I think reading the Bible, that seemed my senior year in high school, and I had a friend who was wanting to become a Baptist minister, and we would discuss the Bible a lot, and so I think all of those set the stage. And then, like you said, being very involved in the campus ministry. And I think it was really good then. Even our kids have said that when they were dating, they said they thought that it was better for us when we were dating, because the way it was we dated a lot of different people without being committed to one person. It wasn't like you go on a date and now you're dating this person exclusively. It wasn't like that. We went on dates with a lot of different people, and then eventually, settled on, it allowed us to know what kind of person we wanted to wind up with. And so I think all of that led to our relationship being firmly established on our faith, our spiritual faith. And that didn't change when he had the car accident.
So many head injury victims divorce.
Yeah, very high.
We've heard there's a very high percentage of people, but Sharon was very supportive the whole time. And I was very hard to live with at times.
Still hard to
Well, what I hear from that is shout out to the importance of campus ministries and to our mamas out there.
For sure.
Well, is there anything else? That's so incredible. I'm going to be bugging you all after I turn the record button off for the next probably hour. Is there anything else that y'all feel like is just burning on your hearts that you'd love to say? This is your moment.
I've done a lot of talking.
You have 33 minutes of it. Well, thank y'all so much for sharing that, and I hope that somebody else sees this, and my prayer is that they will be encouraged and that they will find you and ask all of these fun follow-up questions that I'm about to ask. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yeah, thank you.